The coffee shop glowed with golden Christmas lights, and Maya sat alone at a corner table, watching the world celebrate in a language she couldn't hear. She checked her phone for the 7th time. Her date was officially 43 minutes late. Maya Chen had convinced herself this year would be different. After months of her sister pestering her about putting herself out there, she'd finally agreed to a blind date set up through a friend of a friend. "He's really nice," her sister had promised. "I told him about your hearing, and he said it was totally fine." Those words, "totally fine," had played in Maya's mind all week. People always said things were fine until they actually had to deal with the reality of communicating with someone who was deaf. She stirred her peppermint mocha, the whipped cream already melting into a sad puddle. The cafe was packed with couples and families, their mouths moving in animated conversation, their laughter vibrating through the wooden tables. Maya had learned to read the energy of rooms even without sound, the sudden shifts in body language, the way heads turned toward loud noises she'd never hear, the collective joy of a Christmas song that was just silence to her. Her phone buzzed. Finally. "Hey, something came up. Sorry, can't make it. Have a good holiday." Not even a real excuse. Just the digital equivalent of a shrug. Maya felt the familiar heat of humiliation creep up her neck. She'd spent 2 hours getting ready, had practiced her speech patterns in the mirror to make sure her voice sounded clear, had mentally prepared herself for the exhausting work of lip-reading in dim lighting. And for what? To be stood up 4 days before Christmas. She grabbed her purse, ready to flee, when movement caught her eye. 2 identical girls, maybe 7 or 8 years old, stood by her table. They had the same chestnut brown hair in neat braids, the same smattering of freckles across their noses, the same curious brown eyes. And they were signing. "Hello," the girl on the left signed, her small hands moving with careful precision. "My name is Sophie. This is Emma." Maya's breath caught. She set down her purse slowly, her heart suddenly hammering in a different way. "Hello," she signed back, a smile breaking across her face despite everything. "I'm Maya. We saw you sitting alone," Emma signed, her expression serious. "Are you okay?" The simple kindness of the question nearly undid her. Maya blinked back the sudden sting of tears and nodded. "I'm okay. Just waiting for someone who isn't coming." "That's rude," Sophie signed emphatically, then looked at her sister. The 2 girls seemed to have a silent conversation, the kind that twins apparently had, before turning back to Maya. "Can we join you?" They signed together. Before Maya could answer, a man appeared beside the girls, slightly out of breath. He was tall, with dark hair going silver at the temples and worry creased across his forehead. He placed gentle hands on the girl's shoulders and looked at Maya with apologetic eyes. "I'm so sorry," he said, speaking clearly so she could read his lips. "They ran off before I could." He stopped, noticing her hands still held in mid-sign. His expression changed, softened with understanding. He raised his own hands and continued in ASL. "I apologize. They saw you signing to yourself earlier and got excited. We should leave you alone." But Sophie and Emma were already pulling out chairs, their faces bright with determination. "Please," Emma signed to her father. "She's by herself on Christmas." "That's sad." The man, their father, clearly, looked between his daughters and Maya with an expression of helpless affection. "I'm David," he signed. "These are my daughters, Sophie and Emma. As you can see, they have no concept of boundaries. I think I like that about them," Maya signed back, surprising herself. Something about these 2 little girls and their father made her want to stay, made the humiliation of being stood up feel a little less heavy. David smiled, and it transformed his entire face. He pulled out a chair. "Would you really mind? They've been practicing their signing all year, and they get so excited to meet other people who use ASL. But if you want to be alone, please stay," Maya signed quickly. "I could use the company." So they did. David ordered hot chocolates for the girls and a coffee for himself while Maya finished her mocha. The twins peppered her with questions. How long had she been deaf? Did she like Christmas? What was her favorite color? Did she have pets? Could she feel music? Maya found herself laughing, genuinely laughing, as she answered each question with patience she didn't know she had. Emma wanted to know if Maya could lip-read any language or just English. Sophie asked if Maya had a special alarm clock and then wanted to know if she ever slept through it anyway. Their curiosity was boundless and entirely without pity or discomfort. "They're wonderful," Maya signed to David during a moment when the girls were distracted by decorating paper napkins with crayons a server had brought over. David's expression grew tender as he watched his daughters. They're my whole world. Their mother taught them to sign. His hands paused, and Maya saw grief flicker across his face. She was deaf. She passed away 2 years ago. I'm so sorry, Maya signed. Cancer, David continued. She was diagnosed when the girls were 4. We had a year after that. She made me promise to keep signing with them, to make sure they stayed connected to the deaf community. He smiled sadly. She said they were bridge builders. That they could exist in both worlds and help others cross over too. Maya felt something shift in her chest. She looked at Sophie and Emma with new understanding. These girls had lost their mother but had inherited her language, her culture. They were carrying forward a legacy of connection. You're honoring her well, Maya signed. I can tell. Emma looked up from her napkin art and signed, are you really here alone? On a date, children, Maya had learned, had no filter. She nodded. I was supposed to meet someone. A blind date, but he didn't show up. That's his loss, Sophie signed with such fierce conviction that Maya wanted to hug her. He's probably boring anyway, Emma added. And mean. People who don't show up are mean. David looked mortified. Girls. But Maya was laughing, shaking her head. No, they're absolutely right. Do you go on lots of dates? Sophie asked. Sophie. David signed, his eyes wide. That's personal. It's okay, Maya signed. She looked at the girls' open, curious faces. Not really. Dating is complicated when you're deaf. Some people think it's too much work to communicate with someone like me. That's stupid, Emma signed flatly. You're easy to talk to. Out of the mouths of babes, David signed with a rueful smile. Then to Maya, but she's not wrong. Though I realize that's easy for me to say. My wife used to tell me about the dating world before we met. She said it was exhausting, always having to prove she was worth the extra effort. That's exactly it, Maya signed, grateful someone understood. I'm always the accommodation, never just the person. They fell into conversation as naturally as old friends. David explained that he was a high school English teacher, that he'd met his wife at a deaf culture workshop he'd attended for professional development. She'd been the instructor, passionate and funny and completely captivating. They'd married within a year. The girls have her spirit, he signed, watching as Sophie and Emma now attempted to build a house out of sugar. Packets, fearless, open, they see the world as a place of connection, not barriers. Their mother raised them well, Maya signed. And so are you. As the evening wore on, Maya found herself forgetting why she'd come to the coffee shop in the first place. The twins told her about their school, about their Christmas wish lists, about how they'd asked Santa for a puppy but their dad said that was under consideration, which really meant no. They showed her the matching bracelets they'd made in art class. They asked if she wanted to see pictures of their mom. Maya did. David pulled out his phone, and there she was, Sarah, vibrant and alive in photograph after photograph. Sarah signing animatedly at what looked like a protest. Sarah laughing with her arms around 2 tiny babies. Sarah in a hospital bed, thin and tired but smiling as she signed I love you to the camera. She was beautiful, Maya signed. She was extraordinary, David signed back. She fought for accessibility rights, taught ASL classes, advocated for deaf children in schools. She did more in her 38 years than most people do in twice that. The coffee shop began to empty as the evening deepened. Maya realized she'd been there for nearly 3 hours. It was the longest date she'd never meant to have. We should let you go, David signed reluctantly. I'm sure you have plans. Maya thought about her empty apartment, the frozen dinner waiting in her freezer, the romantic comedy she'd planned to watch while eating ice cream and feeling sorry for herself. Actually, she signed, I don't. This was really nice. Thank you for rescuing my evening. Can we see you again? Emma signed suddenly. Please, Emma, David started, but Maya held up a hand. I would really like that, she signed. She looked at David. If that's okay with you. Something passed between them, a question, an answer, a possibility. David nodded slowly. We're going ice skating tomorrow at Riverside Park. The city puts up lights and they have hot apple cider. Would you want to join us? She should come to Christmas Eve too. Sophie signed enthusiastically. We make cookies and watch movies and Dad reads, the night before Christmas in sign. Girls, that might be too much, David signed, but he was smiling. I love cookies, Maya signed. And I've never seen, the night before Christmas in ASL. Then it's settled, Emma declared. They exchanged numbers, a real exchange this time, not a digital brush-off. As they gathered their coats and scarves, Sophie tugged on Maya's sleeve and signed, "That boy who didn't come. He's going to be really sad when he finds out what he missed." Maya knelt down so she was eye level with both girls. "You know what, I'm not sad anymore. I think maybe things worked out exactly how they were supposed to." "Like fate," Sophie signed seriously. "Like Christmas magic," Emma corrected. "Like kindness," David signed, looking at Maya in a way that made her heart skip. Outside the coffee shop, the snow had started to fall. Fat, perfect flakes drifted down through the glow of Christmas lights strung across the street. The city was quieter now, the last-minute shoppers gone home. Maya stood with David and the girls, watching the snow accumulate on the sidewalk. "Thank you," she signed to all three of them. "You have no idea how much I needed this tonight." "We needed it too," David signed. He hesitated, then continued, "This is the first year we've really felt ready to." His hands paused, searching for the right sign. "To open up again, to let someone new in. The girls have been asking when we'd make new friends. I think maybe they knew before I did that we were ready." Sophie and Emma were trying to catch snowflakes on their tongues, their heads tilted back in pure joy. "They're wise," Maya signed. "Both worlds, like their mom said, they understand connection in a way most people never will." The next day, Maya met them at Riverside Park. She was nervous, had changed her outfit 3 times, had given herself a stern talking to in the mirror about not getting her hopes up. But when she saw David and the girls waiting by the ice rink entrance, all 3 of them waving enthusiastically, something settled in her chest. They skated, or rather, the girls skated while Maya and David wobbled around the edges, holding onto the rail and each other, laughing at their own lack of grace. Emma fell twice but popped back up with determined resilience. Sophie helped a smaller child who'd lost his balance. David bought them all hot cider, and they sat on a bench watching the skaters glide by under strings of white lights. "This is my favorite time of year," Sophie signed, her nose red from cold. "Why?" Maya asked. "Because everyone is a little bit nicer," Sophie signed. "Like they remember what's important." "And what's important?" Maya signed. "Each other," Emma signed, as if it was the most obvious thing in the world. On Christmas Eve, Maya knocked on the door of David's house with a tin of homemade fudge and a heart full of tentative hope. The girls threw open the door before David could reach it, pulling her inside to a home that smelled of cinnamon and pine. They baked cookies, misshapen Santas and lopsided stars that tasted perfect. They watched Elf, with subtitles, and Maya taught the girls some signs they didn't know. When David performed, the night before Christmas in ASL, his hands painting the story in the air, Maya felt tears slip down her cheeks. Not from sadness, but from the overwhelming sense of being seen. Of belonging. "Are you okay?" David signed when the girls had gone to hang their stockings. "I'm more than okay," Maya signed back. She struggled for the word. "I'm home." David reached out slowly, giving her time to pull back if she wanted. But Maya didn't want to. She took his hand, and they stood there in the soft glow of the Christmas tree, 2 people who had known loss and loneliness finding something unexpected in the ruins. "I need to tell you something," David signed. "That night at the coffee shop, I saw you before the girls did. I saw you sitting alone, and I noticed you were signing to yourself. I was trying to figure out how to introduce myself without being creepy when the girls made the decision for me. So it wasn't just them." Maya signed. "It was all of us," David signed. "All of us wanting to connect. All of us ready for something new. The girls just had the courage to do it first." Later, after cookies and stories, after Sophie and Emma had finally crashed on the couch in a tangle of blankets and matching pajamas, Maya and David sat in the kitchen drinking tea. "Can I tell you something?" Maya signed. "That blind date, the one who stood me up, I was so focused on proving I was worth dating, on making sure I was easy enough to communicate with, that I forgot to think about what I actually wanted. I forgot that I deserved someone who saw my deafness as just one part of me, not the whole story. And now," David signed, "now I'm sitting in a kitchen on Christmas Eve with someone who speaks my language, literally and figuratively. With 2 incredible girls asleep in the next room who think kindness is cooler than anything else. And I'm realizing that being stood up was the best thing that could have happened to me." "I'm glad he stood you up too," David signed with a soft smile. "Is that terrible to say?" "It's honest," Maya signed. "And I'm tired of anything less than honesty." They talked until late, about Sarah and the grief that still caught David off guard sometimes, about Maya's parents who had struggled to learn sign language but were trying, about dreams and fears. And the terrifying vulnerability of opening your heart after it's been broken. When Maya finally left, Sophie and Emma woke up just enough to stumble to the door in their pajamas and sign sleepy goodbyes. David walked her to her car through the fresh snow. Tomorrow, he signed. Christmas dinner. It'll just be us, but we'd love to have you. I can't think of anywhere I'd rather be, Maya signed. And she meant it, because sometimes the dates that don't happen lead you exactly where you need to be. Sometimes rejection is redirection. Sometimes two fearless little girls and their father can show up exactly when you need them and remind you that connection isn't about perfect hearing or flawless speech, it's about showing up, being present, and having the courage to sign hello to someone sitting alone. Maya drove home through the silent night, silent to her ears but loud with possibility in her heart. She thought about Sophie and Emma, about their mother Sarah who had taught them that language was a bridge and they were the builders. She thought about David, who honored his late wife by loving openly and teaching his daughters that different wasn't less. And she thought about herself, about the woman who'd walked into that coffee shop expecting rejection and had found instead a family she never knew she was looking for. The Christmas lights blurred through her windshield, and Maya smiled. Sometimes the best gifts aren't wrapped in paper and bows. Sometimes they're wrapped in small hands signing "Can we join you?" and opening a door you didn't know you'd been waiting for someone to knock on. Sometimes being deaf in a hearing world means you hear what really matters most of all, the quiet language of kindness, the universal sign for love, and the sound of home that has nothing to do with ears and everything to do with heart. Maya had gone looking for someone who would tolerate her deafness. Instead, she'd found people who celebrated it, who saw it as part of her story rather than a barrier to it. That, she thought as she pulled into her driveway, was the real Christmas miracle. Not being saved from loneliness, but being